Hi, thanks for tuning in today to Front Porch Conversations. We're here on the porch at the Copeland Community Center at Advent Christian Village. To say it was a beautiful spring day would be an exaggeration. It's technically still spring, I guess. But we are going to have a cool conversation today with our guests, Brenda and Jim Chreitzberg. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And for our guests to know, you live in River Woods.
We did.
And you've been here since when?
November.
That's the past year. So you're not even a whole year old as far as being a resident. Well, you've certainly done a lot to get involved in the village, and we'll hear more about that. But Jim, would you tell us where you were born and where you grew up?
I was born in Williamston, South Carolina, kind of between Greenville and Anderson, upstate South Carolina. And I stayed there until I went in the Air Force.
And you're a veteran.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll hear more about your military career after a bit. Brenda, what about you?
I was born in Tallahassee, Florida, and I lived there for 2 days, and then I've moved 38 times in my lifetime. My father he did bridge construction, and I only went to one school for 1 year. Usually it was 2 to 3 different schools every year, but 1 year I did spend one entire year in one school.
And where was that school?
That was in Broxton, Georgia.
And I think that's where you have some family roots?
Yes, I do. I still have relatives there.
And that's how far from here?
What would you say?
Past Valdosta.
Yeah.
So not too far away?
No.
What happened after high school for you? Jim, you finished high school in South Carolina, and then you went in what branch of the service?
The Air Force.
And tell us a little bit about your Air Force career.
Well, I started out as a security policeman and remained a security policeman my entire time. I moved around quite a bit. I've been to New York, California, Arizona, North Carolina, Illinois, and overseas I went to Vietnam, Thule, Greenland, Germany, and England. So I moved around quite a bit, did a lot of different jobs, enjoyed it immensely.
Great. And did you have a second career after the Air Force?
Yes, as soon as I left the Air Force, I was lucky enough to land a job with Northrop Aerospace Corporation, and they bought up some other companies, and then became Northrop Grumman. All the aerospace were buying up pretty large companies at the time. And I started out in Pico Rivera on the B-2 program. I wasn't even able to tell my family what I was doing. It was a black program, they called them. And that's what I did most of my time in Northrop Grumman. I was in Pico Rivera, California, then El Segundo, California, then ended my career in St. Augustine, Florida.
So at that point you got to be a Floridian.
Yes, that's when I started. That's when I fell in love with Florida. I hadn't thought much about it until then. So then after I did retire, I went to North Georgia Mountains in Blairsville, Georgia. And then we moved down here again into Florida.
What was some of your favorite memories of childhood?
I really have vivid memories about kindergarten. I've got friends still from kindergarten. We have a reunion, for graduation from high school, and it's really enjoyable seeing people I've shared a lot of my life with. I did live in a distant area of the town, almost to the city limits, and there were very few friends living around me, so it was a lot of traveling, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed grammar school, high school. Enjoyed band in high school. That was probably my favorite activity.
And what instrument did you play?
I played drums, and I was also the drum major my last year.
Well, congratulations. Do you have a set of drums now?
No, I gave that up. I do have Parkinson's. Don't want to make it sound bad, but I have very poor balance and rhythm right now.
But I bet you enjoy hearing a good drum solo.
Oh, absolutely. Loved it.
Brenda, what about you? Childhood memories you'd like to share?
Just moving a lot and never really making a lot of friends because I knew I would have to leave them. And summers I spent with my grandmother and my aunts, and I really enjoyed that. That's probably the happiest memories that I have, is staying with my grandparents.
And you have siblings?
Yes, I do. I'm the oldest of 5. I have one sister and 3 brothers, and we're all very close.
That's a wonderful family history.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Jim, what about you, siblings?
Just one brother, and he's 10 years older than I am. And he lives in Maryland. He's also an Air Force veteran, and he worked for the NSA also. So we're both do a lot of security work in our family.
Yeah. What tempted you or introduced you to the village?
Back in the 70s, my mother had a friend that lived here, and she went from buying a home to an apartment to assisted living into the nursing home. And I came with her several times to visit and was just impressed with the village and the whole community, and at that time never thought that it would be any place that I would end up.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was never going to stay in Florida, ever. So, but here we are.
And Jim, that's how you got here too, is it?
Yes.
Through Brenda's connection.
Yep. She had suggested it for one of my ex-mother-in-laws who was getting to where she needed a little bit of assistance and couldn't live on her own anymore. And so that's when we came up a few years ago to look for a place for her. And at the same time, Karen showed us around the village and showed us some of the empty houses. And we said, well, none of those look like something we want, but she called us back a year later, and we found this current house and really love it now. Done a lot of redecorating.
It's been quite a busy time for you.
Oh, yes. We still are not finished, but it's been constant.
Well, I just want to point out for your neighbors that you've done a beautiful job with the yard.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We admire your plantings and your green thumb. And tell us a little bit about how the two of you met.
We actually met on the internet. I was leading a ladies support group at our church, and I had a friend there that had met her husband. And so it was a Christian, website and she had tried for years to get me to go on the website, and I didn't. And then finally I prayed about it, and I said, okay, I'm just going to see what happens. So I did, and that's how we met.
And what do you have as far as Jim do you have any difference to that story or anything you'd like to add?
Sure. That I was very close to leaving the website because it was supposed to be a 55 and over, and then I found out they were letting younger people go, and I was getting messages from young women who I knew were just looking for a sugar daddy. And it was very frustrating, but luckily I found Brenda at the last minute. And it took us about 2 months to meet because she's very strict, and she sent me about 100-page questionnaire with us corresponding and talking on the phone quite a bit. So
we met for coffee that first time, and because I was just very cautious. I wasn't sure about that type of relationship, but I knew I was at a point in my life that I was ready to share my life with someone else, and God just put us together for sure. It was definitely a God thing.
Are there any questions you should have added to the list?
I don't think so. No, I think I pretty well covered them all. We just realized we had so much in common, and that we didn't want to be alone the rest of our lives.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And it was not just the internet, it was God.
Absolutely.
He was a webmaster.
Yes, he was. Definitely. We'll always, we know that. That's exactly what happened, because it just, the way things fell into place, and it had to be.
And Brenda, you have children?
I have one son, and he lives in Lake Butler. And
that's Florida for our viewers that don't know.
Yes. And I lived in Franklin, North Carolina, and then Jim lived in Blairsville, Georgia, and which was about 60 miles maybe apart or so. And I said I would never move back to Florida because I had lived in Florida and Georgia most of my life, and I just can't stand the heat. And I love the mountains, love the change of seasons and everything at the mountains. But at this time in our life, we knew we needed to be closer to family. And I have a brother and sister. Well, I have two brothers in Florida, and then my sister, and also my son. So we talked about it and prayed about it and decided that we wanted to move back, closer to family. So we moved to the Chiefland area in Fanning Springs, and we were there for about a year in a gated community that was, but it was supposed to be a senior community, but it ended up not being a senior community, and we didn't feel like that's where we wanted to spend the rest of our lives. And then when we came over here, we had no intentions at the time of really moving here, but we said, what is it going to hurt to just come and look? And it was the right thing to do. We have such wonderful neighbors. We could not have better neighbors than we have.
And Jim, you have children?
Yes, I have 5, and they live all over the country. So that was another reason we wanted to come to one central location near her family, because there's no way I could possibly get close to all of mine.
Mm-hmm. So. And grandchildren and great-grandchildren? My goodness. I have
7 and 3, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. 7 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren.
And Brenda, what about you?
I have 2 grandsons, and I have a great-grandson and a great-granddaughter. Mm-hmm.
And you're able to be close to them?
Well, they're in Alabama, so not quite as close as I'd like to be, but it's closer than they were in Alaska. One of my grandsons is in the Air Force, and he was in Alaska for 3 years. So at least he's closer than that now.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in South Carolina now.
Yes, not Alabama, right. He would correct me on it. He moved from Alabama to South Carolina recently.
Well, it's hard to keep up with them.
It is.
It is.
In a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your other interests, Brenda.
We love to volunteer, and our family has a mission in Gilchrist County. It's called Mission in Action for God, and we have a plant nursery that we sell plants to the public, and we also have a food bank. And Jim and I go once a month to Gainesville, and we pick up the food from the big food bank there and take it to our food bank, and we volunteer, and then we also volunteer at the rustic shop and other things around the community wherever we're needed.
And I understand you're doing a lot of the flower arranging.
Yes, I'm trying. I'm trying to do that.
Did you ever work as a florist?
No, never. And I really don't want to, but it was a need, and I'm just temporarily doing that right now.
And Jim, do you have other interests that you're pursuing?
I'm trying to get into the exercise program. The Copeland Center is so well equipped, and I've talked with rehab at the clinic here, and they've got me a very good in-home physical fitness. And I just need to get off my rear and down here to the Copeland Center, because it is a fantastic place to work out and swim also.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of water aerobics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I really have benefited from it, and I enjoy it.
Well, I plan to start just in a couple of weeks. We're going on a vacation trip in a couple of weeks, and then after we get back, we're going to focus on that.
And you've acquired a new member of your family.
Yes, we have.
Tell us about Huggles.
We have a little dog named Huggles. She was, I guess she's about 9 months old now, and she's a rescue dog, and she's a Terrier and German Shepherd mix. We had her DNA done. I didn't know you could do DNA on pets, but we did and found out, what she is. And Jim's doctor had recommended that he get a service dog that he could train, and in case he were to fall, because his balance is so bad, that this dog could help him. So that there were specifications that had to be a certain size, and all of this. So one day we were just riding around, and Jim wanted to go look for a dog, and I said, no, we're not ready for a dog. We just moved here. We're trying to renovate our home, and I did not want a dog in the house, especially a big dog. So I said, let's just ride around, and we'll, so we ended up at a shelter, and I said, before we went in, I said, let's pray about it. Well, I should have said, he should have told me what he was praying for, because we were praying against each other. That was the wrong thing. We should have prayed together. So I prayed and he prayed, and then we got in there, and this little dog just we told him what we were looking for, just something laid back and something that Jim could be able to manage. And this little dog just latched on to him, and that was it. Needless to say, we came home with a dog. So,
but you and Huggles have become friends?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. She's precious, and I almost don't mind her in the house now.
And she takes y'all for a walk. So.
Yes, we really enjoy her.
Well, I have seen a number of service dogs trained to do so many things, various things over time, and it's amazing what they can be taught to do. And you talked about the German Shepherd portion. That's a very intelligent breed of dog. So I think you've got a great dog there. Thank you so much.
We do too.
I would wonder, when each of you, did you grow up, Jim, in church?
Yes.
And Brenda?
I did too. My grandfather and great-grandfather were Baptist ministers. And so I grew up in the Baptist faith and always very, very involved in church. Both of us were.
And Jim, what about you?
Yes, I was always a member of Baptist church. One of my ancestors was the head of the Methodist church in South Carolina. So very strong Christian upbringing. And in the Boy Scouts, I was in the Boy Scouts, which really, it's for God and country. So.
Those are good roots, aren't they?
Yes, they are. The best. The best.
In moving to the village, has anything surprised you?
I guess the friendliness of everyone. I mean, as we were moving in, I mean, the neighbors were just coming, from everywhere to see if they could help, if we needed anything, if we needed someplace to stay while we were moving in. It was just, that really surprised me. I had never seen that in any community before. And just the general friendliness of everyone since we've been here.
The village has a number of activities, and nobody can be involved in all of them.
That's for sure.
And I think there's something for everybody. And I think you're participating in a few neighborhood things as well. Is that right?
Yes. Every Thursday evening we go play with, there's about 15 of us in the neighborhood, and we have a game night. And we play Rummy Cube, or we'll play dominoes or things like that together, and it's just really a good time of fellowship. And we've learned to, we've gotten to meet a lot of our neighbors that way, so that's been great.
One of the questions I like to ask people, and if it puts you on the spot, that's quite all right. We can just go on. But what advice would you give a young person today?
Oh my goodness. I think one of the main things is your character speaks more than anything else. It's what you do, not just what you say. And your character and your integrity and honesty is so important. And to give, not just let everything be about yourself, but to give to others.
Thank you, Jim.
I agree with that 100%. Try and plan for your future. Our children, we know, are going to eventually be our age, and I hope they've made plans so they're comfortable for the rest of their life. We feel like we're going to be set for life now.
Yeah, just like when you visited here in the 70s, you never envisioned yourself here.
Oh, never.
And,
never.
I think that's the case with so many people of any age. You don't look down not necessarily that you'd make a decision, but to be informed about what's ahead as much as you can be.
Well, just to have so much available as you need it as you get older in life, to be able not to have to move in with your children or have to with anyone, but you can. There's just so many different levels of care here that no one else has.
And it's as you said, a very welcoming community. And we have people from all backgrounds and denominations, and I think it makes for a wonderful community.
Yes, it does.
Jim, I understand you are a proponent of the artist series here at the village. Would you share a little bit about that with our viewers?
Absolutely. We got involved with it as soon as we got here. We found out about it, and we were able to buy in mid-season, which is always a good thing. We joined for the season. You can buy the tickets separately if you're not interested in all of them. It's also combined with a Lake City concert group, so you get to travel quite a bit, see different things, comedy, musical. It's really, really great. Great activity.
And it's affordable.
Absolutely.
And the plus I like about it is you get to see things that you would be seeing in a big city, perhaps, but not traveling there.
Yes, exactly.
Brenda, would you tell us a little bit more about the mission that your family has?
We provide so much to the community. If someone needs gas cards to get back into the Shands for chemotherapy or things like that, we also help with rent, utilities. Like I said, we have a food bank, and every day someone comes to the food bank, needing food. And my brother and sister-in-law run that, and they do not take one penny, and they're there all day Thursday, all day Friday, and a half a day Saturday. And that they volunteer. No, it's in Gilchrist County in Bell.
Oh, okay.
And I just, it's such a wonderful thing. We've had it about 15 years, and was started by my family, and I'm just very proud of it.
And when you were talking about the plant nursery,
Mm-hmm.
that would be a way that other people could get to see the nursery and then help the
Yes.
the ministry as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if anyone knows where Aiken's Barbecue is in Bell, it's right next door to it. You say Aiken's in Bell, and everybody knows where that is.
And is it good barbecue?
So, it's the best.
We'll give them a little commercial
It's
too.
absolutely the best.
One of the things that people always say to me after they've moved here, well, where is there good places to eat?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important question. Everybody wants to know.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
So there's a comment for Aikens.
Right.
Tell us about your bucket list.
I think we're living our bucket list right now. I really do. It was just such a wonderful thing that we found each other at this time in our lives, and we do what we want to do together, and that's I think that's our bucket list.
You did mention one trip you want to take.
We do plan to go to see the Ark in Kentucky, the replica of the Ark there, and hopefully when it cools off a little bit. But that's going to be the next trip that we plan to take.
I went about this time of year, and I would suggest you wait till it's cooler.
Yes, I think so. Mm-hmm.
But unlike probably the original Ark, the Ark there is air conditioned inside.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
But there's a good bit of walking until you're there. So
okay, good.
it's not insurmountable, but it's you don't walk out of an air conditioned environment into another one.
No, we wanted to do some cruising, but with the epidemic, we just felt like that was not a smart thing to do at this time in our lives. So we sort of put that on the back burner for a while.
Brenda, you had said you didn't want to live in Florida. You have lived in Florida a number of places.
Yes.
Where were some of the places you've lived?
Oh my goodness. Like I said, I've lived I don't know if I've said this before, but I've lived 38 different places in my lifetime. And some of them, one time in particular, I was in school for 2 days and then came home and my parents were packing up and we were moving again. So I've lived in Defuniak Springs, Pensacola, Crestview, Orange Park, Jacksonville, Gainesville. So those are the main places.
And how long did you live in Franklin?
I lived in Franklin for 4 years, and that was my favorite place to live. I can tell the mountains were just absolutely beautiful, and loved it there. Still have family and very good friends there.
And Jim, where do your children live?
Washington State, Seattle, and have 2 in California. 1 in Dallas, Texas, and 1 in far upstate New York, almost to the Canadian border.
So you almost have border children who live near a border or the country. Well, I appreciate both of you being here today on a warm day.
Okay.
And we appreciate our viewers tuning in. Hopefully you're cooler than we are.